With the cloak of winter lifted, the Lamar Valley is barely recognizable. There are newcomers here, just getting to know the place. The Druids have made it through the winter in fine form. Old 21 and 42 still at the helm. At this time of year, the pack splits up. The wolves won't need to hunt as a large team. Now their prey is elk calves. And it's not just wolves. Every predator is drawn to them.
There may be competition between wolves and grizzly bears for elk calves. But it's interesting because one day in Lamar Valley this spring, our team observed 2 elk calves killed by wolves, 2 killed by grizzly bears, and 2 killed by coyotes. Black bears, cougars, eagles also take elk calves. So one of the next studies that we're trying to initiate is understanding predation on elk calves.
The calves are nimble and quick even at this young age. A grizzly is surprisingly fleet for its size. It can reach a top speed of 30 miles an hour. Grizzlies have young to feed too. The reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone, though, hasn't been welcomed by everyone. Local sports hunters, for one, don't like competing with the wolves. But despite the return of a top predator to the park, the scientists report elk numbers seem to be holding steady. But the controversy has spread beyond the park. Nearly half of the wolves now live outside Yellowstone, where they are often not welcome. Local ranchers feared for the loss of their cattle, but after 7 years, the true losses have been far lower than many ranchers had predicted. The days are growing longer, and the Druids are away patrolling the furthest reaches of their territory. Doug and his team use this opportunity to study the Druids' vacated winter home.
Den sites are treasures. You get a view into the wolf's world. You know, it's just like going to your house after you've moved out.
Okay. Oh yeah, it goes back a ways.
Can you see the main chamber at the end?
I can.
They've found that females make dens in caves, dig under tree roots, and even take over beaver dams.
It's a narrow entryway with a big chamber at the end. It might go at least 16 feet. An entrance that probably a grizzly bear couldn't get down, but a chamber that was pretty roomy and comfortable.
The Druids themselves are now long gone, spending the summer at a rendezvous site. Their 2-month-old pups stay here, making the most of the lush period of sunshine, while most of the pack hunts. There are plenty of new sights and smells to investigate, and an attentive babysitter nearby to make sure things don't get out of hand. For the next few summer months, the rendezvous site will be the focal point of their young lives. Though adults often go their separate ways to hunt, they return to the rendezvous site to feed the pups and keep in contact with the rest of the pack. A new litter of wolf pups is welcome, but Doug knows the time will soon come when there'll be some sad losses from the Druid pack.
42 has been there since the beginning, and 21 came on the scene early. They are the thread through that whole story, and that thread is getting short, and it could end soon. It will be a sad day for me, and it will be a sad day for the story of Yellowstone wolves.
The sadness of those inevitable losses should be balanced by the scale of the achievement.
I think the reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone is one of the scientific opportunities of the century. To be a part of this from the beginning and document how this system will change because of the reintroduction of a top carnivore that belongs here is a huge scientific opportunity that needs to be done.
And now a new chapter has opened in Yellowstone's history. Doug has been anxious to find out what happened to the big young wolf that ran off with the Druid's adolescent daughters. Although number 113 has been collared, his radio transmitter only works occasionally, so he's been hard to track. One day, at the edge of the Druid's territory, Doug spots a group of pups he hasn't seen before. And watching over them is 113. No longer a renegade wolf, but a busy father with his young family. With the arrival of the pups, this group is now officially a pack in its own right, and 113 is their alpha male. A chapter is ending for the aging leaders of the Druids, but it's just beginning for this pack, too new to even have a name. Future skirmishes over Yellowstone territory are inevitable. As these young wolves face the future, this is their battle cry.
Coming up this evening, rare access to one of London's remaining Catholic seminaries as a new series begins by following trainee priests who gave up their previous lives to answer the call. Another chance to catch part 1 of Catholics next.
I love going to work every day. I love trying to figure out what these animals are doing, their stories, their interactions with the other animals in Yellowstone is a wonderful opportunity that challenges me in every way.
To keep track of the wolves, Doug's team have fitted radio collars to about a third of the animals. When the batteries run out, the collars have to be replaced.
Okay, we got one. Okay, we'll watch him. There's one coming behind you. Okay, there's a...
After trying several different recapture techniques, Doug has found darting from a helicopter to be the least traumatic for the wolves.
Okay, we'll stay on that one. Okay, we're still with this first one.
gonna try not to get bit here.
While the wolf is sedated, Doug gives it a thorough examination and checks its health before replacing the collar. The radio collars have given him an extraordinarily intimate glimpse into the secret lives of wolves.
I think it's good we got him on insight.
The wolves he's come to know best were a pack released in the shadow of Druid Peak in 1996. The Druid Pack initially seemed to adjust well to Yellowstone, but more than a year later, they wandered out of the park, and the pack leader was shot. Command of the 7 wolves fell to his mate, the alpha female, a beautiful wolf, but a violent one. A coyote scavenging her kill was in serious trouble.
The first alpha female was wolf number 40. She was very aggressive, and she ruled with an iron fist.
Led by this powerful Dark Queen, the Druids developed a reputation for killing wolves from neighboring packs, as well as coyotes. A stranger from a rival pack, a young male known as Number 21, entered the Druids' territory. He risked his life to court the Dark Queen. His gamble paid off. Number 21 managed to win her over and became the alpha male of the Druid Pack. The union of these 2 wolves did not go unnoticed. This is the story of the rise to power of the largest wolf pack ever known. Going from strength to strength, they're now at a turning point in their lives. The balance of power is shifting within the pack. The leaders face a takeover challenge from within their own family. Winter in Yellowstone is 6 months of temperatures below freezing. It can look beautiful, but the conditions are fierce. This is a time when most animals struggle simply to survive. But it is also a time when one animal truly comes into its own. This is the time of the wolf, and wolves are back in Yellowstone National Park after an absence of nearly 70 years. American gray wolves are formidable predators. They hunt in large packs and bring down prey far larger than themselves. Wolves have been nipping at the heels of elk for hundreds of thousands of years. In the depths of winter, there will always be the weak, the old, the injured. Once targeted, the wolf pack closes in. The pack has its prey, but the wolves won't be allowed to eat in peace. As the bison stumble across the wolves and their kill, they panic. Extraordinary scenes like this disappeared entirely from the American West early last century. Millions of bison were exterminated, and the wolf wasn't far behind. It was treated as vermin by ranchers and park officials, hunted, poisoned, and trapped. The Yellowstone wolf was gone. "1995 brought a change in fortune. Wolves were brought from the Canadian wilderness to be released back into the park after a 65-year absence.
Here, guys. Right here, Doug. We got two here.
Park biologists kept the wolves in pens to get them used to the new surroundings, and they had their hands full from the start. Even after 10 weeks, the Canadian wolves still had a healthy disrespect for human company. The plan to fit radio collars to monitor the wolves' progress and location proved challenging. But local officials had more serious worries. Once released, would the wolves leave the park and start preying on livestock instead of the wildlife? If they did, the project was doomed. As the date of the releases approached, park biologists like Doug Smith really had no idea what would happen once the doors to the pens were opened.
One's out. There's two are out. We got two out.
Many people were tearful. The emotional burden that was lifted off of people's shoulders was tremendous. Now, what was going to happen? Would this take? Would the wolves go back to Canada? What are they going to do?
In theory, Yellowstone was perfect wolf habitat, but no one really knew whether the wolves would thrive, starve, or simply leave the park. For biologist Doug Smith, head of Yellowstone's wolf recovery program, the releases marked the beginning of an epic 7-year scientific adventure.
I've been interested in wolves since I was a small boy. I never dreamed that I would be in the position that I am today. And for me, this truly is a labor of love.
The first thing that happened when the Druid Peak Pack grew was they had to get more territory. They had to take over more land. Unfortunately, all the land in the northern part of Yellowstone was occupied by other wolves. So they had to take it aggressively from the nearest pack.
In the no man's land between the Druids' territory and their neighbors, Doug and his team found grim evidence of fierce border skirmishes.
That's pretty big. Lots of blood. Territorial skirmishes between wolf packs can be ferocious. In fact, they can be so bad that wolves can die in these boundary skirmishes about who's going to control the different areas of the park. This area right here is a major zone of tension between these two packs. Their territorial boundaries pretty much abut here, and 3 wolves have died in 3 years right along this boundary.
The Druids almost certainly killed this wolf in pursuit of more prey and more territory. But their grey fur shows that time is catching up with the Druids' alpha pair. The once black Cinderella wolf and her dark partner have entered their twilight years.
I feel a lot of kinship with 42 and 21 because I'm watching them gray, and I'm starting to gray along with them. So all this stuff pulls you a lot of different ways, so I'm bonding with the study subjects.
Now 7 years old, 42 and 21, the alpha pair have outlived most of their contemporaries. But they won't be allowed to enjoy their golden years in peace. Trouble comes in the form of number 113, a powerful young male, a lone wolf.
The unique thing about 113 is he's so big, and how we referred to him was that big male wolf.
In the prime of his life, number 113 has one thing on his mind, a mate. But Druid turf is a dangerous place to come courting. Caution takes hold, and the big male wolf has second thoughts about advancing further. And it's 21, the old man of the Druids, who chases him off. The Dark Queen's sister, number 42, is watching. Known as the Cinderella Wolf, number 42 was in constant trouble with her sister. She was never quite submissive enough to please her leader. Vicious put-downs were all too common. And then, one night, everything changed. The Dark Queen was dead, probably killed by her own sister. The next day, the once lowly Cinderella Wolf claimed the den of the Dark Queen for her own pups. The Druid pack had a new leader. She took her sister's mate for herself. And she raised her sister's pups as well as her own, and a third litter as well. They had 21 young mouths to feed. The Druids took turns babysitting and feeding them all. All but one of these pups from 3 litters grew into adults. A remarkable achievement for the Druid pack, and a triumphant return of wolves to Yellowstone.
I didn't think that 20 out of 21 pups were going to survive. Yellowstone was the ideal place for wolves to be, and they weren't there, and we reintroduced them, and conditions were such that they could have 3 litters of pups in one pack, and they could have 20 of 21 of those pups survive.
Eventually, the Druid Peak pack grew to 37 members. Almost certainly the largest wolf pack ever known. With so many wolves, the Druids became a force to be reckoned with. They needed more territory, and their howling left no doubt they intended to take it by force.